Oh, no, sorry. One of the speeches was Alex.
Get a sergeant arms, please.
Yeah.
Get a sergeant arms, Brett. Anybody?
All right. All right, fellow Toastmasters, it is one of those days where you look around and you say, why are all those flags out there? You know, this is a time when we can think about patriotism, we can think about belonging to something, we can think about, what is it that, that all those have given up so much so that we can be here, have free speech and be able to share ideas and come together. There's one person that comes to mind when I think about patriotism and America. I think of Vince Bullinger, kind of my hero. And I think about, just kind of leadership and taking us into the next century. I want to give us a round of applause for our outgoing president, Mr. Vince Bullinger.
If you could all please join me in rising, and if you care to do so, please join me in saluting our flag and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you remain standing, today's invocation timer is, I believe, clean. You have no vote. Oh, you are back. Okay.
Well, never forget to bring the materials. That would be, do I need to give a, okay, you might.
An invocation.
An invocation.
An invocation. Yeah, like I said, make sure you're always ready for it. This will be my invocation. You're prepared.
All right. You're on group. I believe we have one guest. We all were expecting. Oh, well, I believe we have two guests. Why don't we tell us who you are? What brought you here?
Honda Civic.
Well, go on, Civic. What brought you here, and why did you come to town?
Oh, I was invited by my boss.
All right. Or his replacement. Okay. We'll expect you to generally evaluate it. All right, and we have another guest here, Justin Rams, who will be our guest speaker. You want to tell us who you are and what brought you?
I'm Justin Rams. I'm here to talk about the Internet of Things. Personal passion.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. Any new business leaders, guys? All right. How about announcements? I get this one up there. Yeah, we already did that. Probably did that. All right, great. So today's Toastmaster, as is the case for the entirety of the month of June, which we are calling TechMonth. Today's Toastmaster is Brett S., former president, the current treasurer. Please help me welcome today's president, today's Toastmaster, Brett S.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, fellow TechMasters, and welcome guests. Welcome to our second edition of our TechMonth series. Today's theme is going to be, as we mentioned, the Internet of Things. Does anybody know what the ambient orb is? Anybody ever seen that? So in 2005, I got my first introduction to, I guess, the first kind of IoT thing. It's a little glass orb, sits on your desk, and it has the ability to change colors. And the way it does this is, you make an HTTP request, that request gets routed to a satellite, and in a few minutes, depending on where your orb is placed, 2 minutes later, it'll change colors based on what the satellite told your orb. And so we used to use this for things like broken build indicators, right? I put it on the desk, and if it was green, everything was good, test passed, code compiles. If it's yellow, code compiles, but test failed. If it's red, those totally busted, no good. So that was my first experience with the Internet of Things. And from that point on, I got pretty interested in it, but more from my vantage point, which is a developer, how to interact with them, how to work with them. We started to get the programmable circuit boards that we could install on things. But what I'm excited about today is to hear about all the stuff I've never really dug into. Some of the security issues that we'll be hearing about from Marie today. And I'm sure Justin's going to have a lot of great insight on what this kind of stuff means, how it works. And so from gadgets to gizmos, devices to widgets, I don't know your use title. So I've got something about we're going to hear a little bit about how the connectivity happens from my guess. Title seems to be good. But we're going to be hearing all about this stuff. So this is the meeting of the series that I've been most excited about because I find it super interesting and I have a lot to learn about it because I've been pretty much focused on the dev side. So let's go ahead and get the meeting started. And to start, we're going to start with a little bit of levity. So I'm going to introduce today's court jester, and that is Katie Mizo. Shim Mizo.
Keep trying.
I'm trying to remember where the hyphen was when I was up. Yeah, you have to tell me. Better? This is the joke, isn't it?
Right, different efficiency.
Yeah.
But no, actually, so with the Internet of Things, we're very often streaming data over various connections. There are various protocols for communicating data. There's TCP, there's UDP, various others. And I have a UDP joke, but I'm not sure you get
That's a good one. I'll figure it out. And for our 1 minute TechMasters today, filling in the last minute is Leah Livingston.
Oh, you didn't think of that right. Thank you. All right, so 1 minute educational speech. I am using manuals. We all get these manuals, but what do they actually do and what's the purpose? So the purpose is to move you through your Toastmaster progression so that you ultimately will be the best leader, the best speaker, the best presenter, the best person you can be in the realm of communication. What I'd like to highlight is actually the leadership track, which is a nice way to continue to be motivated, to track your progress, and there are 8 different tracks. So the Confident Communicator, which is the basic book that we all see, has 10 different speeches that you can progressively do and check off. And as you complete each speech and finally complete all of them, you get a certificate from the VP of Education, and you get another manual for free. And most importantly, you get a letter to your employer saying how wonderful you are. So the track goes as follows. You remember, you become a confident communicator. You move to advanced communication bronze, advanced communicator silver, advanced communicator gold. Then you have the opportunity to potentially become a district manager if you'd like to move forward in another form of leadership. You can become a confident leader, which is again another book, and this you get when you participate in some event within the district. Become advanced leader bronze, advanced leader silver, and then after that, you're so fabulous and such a great communicator. I mean, you basically don't even need to cry anymore. So, if you are motivated to power through this book, by the end of it, I can guarantee that you're going to be a better speaker, better presenting, more confident, and have less positives.
One of the reasons we come to Toastmasters is to improve our speaking, and a big part of that is to remove interrupting words or interrupters from our speaking. Like so's now. Helping us with that today is Gwen Riedel. I'm really bad. Riedel. Will you please tell us a little bit about your role and present us the word of the day?
Yes, my role, and I forgot to get the.
Oh, okay.
So, as part of my, as part of my role, I will be watching for odds, and spacer words or inconsequential words. And we'll hear this ding. Our word, and part of my role, it also gets to use that the word of the day and to challenge the speakers to use that word. So today, the word of the day is obtuse. It can be used in a couple of different ways. Not pointed or acute, so blunt, exceeding 90 degrees, so not 90-degree angles. That's the way to use it in the physical realm, but it also can be used to describe how we speak. So lacking sharpness or quickness of sensibility or intellect, such as insensitive or stupid. So as a result, here's an application of the word tubes. As we expand our knowledge of the Internet of Things today, it will keep us from being obtuse.
Remember I read that word at Shawshank Redemption? You guys seen that movie?
Yep.
Another important part of communication is, of course, impromptu speaking. We all get asked questions at work and in our daily life where we have to respond without a lot of preparation. And so every week we'd like to practice that with something called table topics. And today, leading us through the table topics is our current president and outgoing president, Vince Vaughn. Yeah.
All right. Maybe Brett will get back to us on the timer roll after it gets back.
Maybe.
All right, great. All right, let's see if I can remember your selections. And Greg is speaking. All right, great. Will. Okay, so today we're going to have table topics. And of course, all going to be about the Internet of Things. So let's see. I want to give a roll today. All right. Well, I'm not asking. I'm not asking.
Right.
So, Voltaire is a portable, high-performance grinder that monitors your coffee beans or reorders whenever you need to brush the fly. How do you feel about cool stuff like this when it's like, I got a little chip in my coffee maker in my refrigerator, my cupboard tells me when something's out. Where's my orders for?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. So I am familiar with products like this. I know Amazon has various products. I personally don't use any of these at home. I leave it to my husband to order from Amazon Prime now, something's out, and then he can get it in 2 hours. I do think there's value. I think for people, for example, with small children who are about to run out of diapers, what a cool idea if they can do something like this, or laundry soap, or other things. So it definitely has potential. Again, I'm not a user at this moment, but I think we will definitely be seeing this more and more in the landscape.
All right. So, white hat hackers have devised an attack against network-connected light bulbs that exposes Wi-Fi passings to anyone in proximity to one of the LED devices. How comfortable are you that all the little devices around your house connected to the internet will have adequate security?
Thank you. The short answer to that question is not very at the moment. The Internet of Things security has been a hot topic in the news for a number of years. There's been several criticisms that devices are not adequately protected and that the industry has not paid enough attention to creating adequate security protocols. And as anyone who manages the security network knows, your weakest point is your strongest point. So until those securities ramp up and prove proven, testable, and effective, I'm not one of the early adopters. I prefer to lag back and let others go over the cliff. And when I see the bodies piled up to walk across, please don't use that as the word picture of the day. So I'm waiting. I'm not very comfortable at the moment. I'll give you another 5 or 10 years.
Well, I see that you're not very obtuse when you're thinking about the Internet of Things. Right. So what if your toaster gets hacked? And hackers improperly cook your toast. Is something like hacking into your toaster or your light bulb that much of a concern? Why or why not?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master from TechMasters. I've never really thought about my toaster being part of the Internet of Things. If it improperly cooked my toast, I'd be okay with it. I'd probably roll with it. My husband would be upset. He's more of a perfectionist and a purist when it comes to these things. Where I have intersected with the Internet of Things is around the Nest thermostat. We were all keen on getting it until there was a software glitch. And I don't know if everybody's heard about this, but there was some kind of upgrade to the software, and it made all the nests not function in the middle of the winter, and there were many angry users of the Nest, and so we have delayed using the Nest or buying the Nest until they can figure that aspect of it out. So we are I'm obtuse about Toaster Internet of Things, but I'm a little bit knowledgeable about Nest Internet of Things. Thank you.
Eric. NSA looking to exploit Internet of Things, including biomedical devices. How do you feel about the government and saying whatever, or not only in the American government, and the other government or large corporations, digging into things like the Internet of Things and hacking into whatever kind of device, including your biomedical device, and we'll see whatever you do, because that's what they do, and they're going to keep doing it no matter what.
Thank you, Mr. Table, Topics Master, all of those masters. Yes. This is a very interesting topic, and along the security lines that have already been brought up, I think it's interesting to think about that. What if something as basic as medical care and have to use it? Do we have to be cognizant and aware that if we go to the doctor and we putting ourselves at risk security-wise? It's an interesting way to look at that Internet of Things, and I think it's one of those things that we just have to stop and think about it, because so often we rush into things and think, oh, this is technology, it's better for us. This is with any Internet technology. We have to think about, is this something that is really going to benefit us? And if it is, what is the cost of it? Because oftentimes, if you're getting something for free, there's some sort of cost. Like this with medical devices, it's what is the advantage? And I think it's something we have to each way as we look at how we use them.
I think your phrase one time was something like, if you're not paying for it, then you're the problem. All right, on this we hear when you can't leave your house because your lock is open. That's what Adrian was saying. How do you feel about things like this? Like there's some kind of an update, and all of a sudden you can't use their thing. But it's like I don't really need this to connect to the internet right now. I can just like turn it and just go. What do you feel about things like that? Disrupting your life, things like that. Your doors, maybe your coffee maker not working. Things you need to order something or some update and you really need your coffee.
Short answer, that sucks. Long answer, a lot of these things are going to happen. And as you're touching on with a few other things, there's huge security concerns. And although you haven't mentioned them yet, and I hope I don't steal your thunder here, the ones that are more on the top of my head are any video surveillance type things, things as simple as cell phones or baby monitors or whatever else. These are some pretty scary things. I think the main way that we as technology people can maybe disrupt that is by looking into Arduino or different things like that and make our own types of things that actually work and allow us in our front doors. Thank you.
I don't remember how many more I have here. One or two more. Stand up, sir. All right. So I found this nice little internet or Twitter feed here, and I can say the name of it here, but pretty funny. So currently updating the firmware for my suitcase, and it's a great way to get special treatment from the TSC. Are there any other kind of side issues like that, or any kind of comical situations that could really disrupt your everyday way of life, or get you in trouble with things like this? That you can do?
Well, sure. I mean, there is anytime you deal with technology, it won't disrupt you. But thinking of like Internet of Things and what Jesse mentioned, some of the cameras, I can tell you guys one story from my personal experience with Internet of Things. So my sister was visiting me just a few months ago. And she has a little baby, they said by, and she wanted to keep an eye on the baby. So the baby was upstairs, and she was in the kitchen, always cooking, the way the house is laid out, there are multiple belts. So she had a baby camera up there in the bedroom, and she was keeping that baby. Well, then it was time to go there and give you some feeding. So she went upstairs, and I also had roommate living with me. And roommate happened to be at the same time in the kitchen. And she forgot to turn off the security camera, the baby camera. So my roommate was really, really, really embarrassed by what he saw in the small screen in the kitchen as she was feeding the baby upstairs. So you always have to be careful, not even outside your home, but also like inside your home, what's going on in the different rooms. Speaking of privacy.
Love the tagline. Obviously, the best thing to do when shipping. All right, let's see. So we got CLI. Well, there's at least one thing. Yep, here it is. All right. So, not sure how well this is going to go here. We'll see if it takes a minute to start loading, but there's a video here. All right. So here you are. You're working at a diner, you're making your eggs, and your hash browns, good for all the people, buying your own business. And you call back to your coworkers like, hey, everything's going fine, nothing wrong, right? But of course, as is obviously going to be the case, aliens have decided that they're going to go take over this Internet of Things, and your smart guy happens. How do we prevent situations like the obvious alien overtake, like as was portrayed in the documentary Maximum Overdrive?
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Beautiful video. Created circa 1980 something. So how do we prevent the Internet of Things and these technical objects from entering our everyday life? I think the simple answer, there's always a simple and a complex answer, is to not let them control your lives and not rely so heavily on them. I'll use an example. I recently got an iWatch, and today I forgot to wear it, and I feel completely lost without it, and can't get my buzzing notifications every 30 seconds from emails. I don't know the time. I didn't have my GPS. So there's all these elements of panic when we start to rely on technology and then you don't have them. So when you look at these devices or these objects that you're using, think of them as a nice to have, but not a necessity. Just like GPS, we all were driving before GPS existed. We all can continue to drive before GPS existed. So as we adopt these new tools and technologies, think of them as nice to have and not a necessity. And that's all. Thank
We have no idea how to respond. With that, we'll turn it on over to our Toastmaster Brett.
Today our timer is. Tell us a little bit about your role since I forgot.
It'd be a good time to do this. All right, so as a timer, I'm making sure that we all stay in time. So I'm measuring everything. And today, do my role. I don't know if you guys seen this or not, but there is an app out there, a mobile app, that is really good. So you don't have to remember the times. Like I never remember things, so but you can look, you can select the role, and it will just time it for you, and it will actually show you the colors. Like say this 118, once it turns to 130, will turn to yellow. All you have to do is just like raise your phone and show it to the rest of the group. So please use this. It's very useful. So that's the role.
Again. Now for all those who are not morning people, this is your favorite time of the meeting where you can take a 5-minute break. The timer will be timing, and go get some coffee and candy. I guess there's candy for Flag Day, which is kind of related, but you help yourself and come back here in five minutes. And I'll call some general evaluators, speakers, and evaluators up.
Well, I was a little bit.
He's going first. Okay. So he does not need to be paired with an evaluator.
Yeah, we're not doing evaluation.
We are doing evaluation, but just for Maria and.
Okay, who are the other?
Behind you.
Evaluator and Jesse, you evaluate Mike, And
I know, I had it coming.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You got it.
It's covered it.
Uh,
I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, actually, sure. I'm going to talk about internet of security. Give some examples of some past failures.
Oh.
Way forward.
Good slide.
So far, so good.
Are you second?
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Taylor, do you have a preference?
I don't know if I care, but.
Just pick it.
Second, okay. All right. So we'll need, and your slides are on this computer?
You're on this computer?
Oh, you got your adapters.
Yeah, I think I've got everything, so.
Okay.
Mr. General Guy.
Oh, she said so.
Okay, I'm gonna let that.
Yeah, your third mic. Justin, Maureen.
I'm just curious. Trying to
You said different things.
trying to confident.
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain some, so there's no complex stuff.
All the other ones are
think
great.
I broke it down.
There's still time, Justin, but. Yeah. It's like
I think actually, I thought that was really valid, because
Well,
I
you basically corrected me.
I thought it was a valid point, and that is good for me to know, because I do have to communicate to management people who.
Yeah.
honestly don't.
Yeah. But he did
So,
correct.
See what it is.
On this speech, my goal on this is that, the director should get it.
So
So,
someone's not.
yeah, I'm gonna explain some problems in
Yeah.
a pretty clear way. And then I'm gonna say this is a thing that we should be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm actually not gonna dive into this. So this is actually something that should, it covers some tech pieces, but it
Yeah.
doesn't go into the, so it's something I'm hoping the director can capture, so. Yeah, it's kind of, it's hard, you know, because I, in a given day, you know, it's 50 things. I see different philosophical project manager.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do, but I think there's one thing.
Oh, you missed my package.
Is that 11 ums or 2? I think it's section 1 or 2. Every time I feel like that ends top.
No, yeah.
Got it.
No, it's good. I did use it too.
So far.
Yeah.
I do think that right now you're in the running for final body. It was.
But then you see that incident, it's unforgettable.
But it will definitely be. It's more than 5 minutes.
See, I introduced the timer and it didn't. Welcome back, everybody. We're gonna start the prepared speech portion of our meeting today. And we have a guest speaker who's gonna start things off. His name is Justin Grammond, who's been introduced earlier in the meeting. He's got actually quite the slew of he's got expertise in IoT based on this. Because Justin Grimes is the founder of Recursive Awesome, which is really awesome. IoT Data Analytics. He works on a publication called, or part of the publication IoT Weekly, which is all about Internet of Things. He's also a professor teaching at the graduate level in St. Thomas, and he's the co-founder of both IoT Fuse, a nonprofit with the mission to position Minnesota as a leader in IoT technology. And on this, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Please help me welcome Justin Grimes.
Postmaster attendees. Very, very honored to be a guest here today. Talk about this technology that I'm very interested in. I kind of chose this picture because it kind of shows all these devices connected to each other, but also connected to the internet. You know, a number of these things could actually be gateways out to the internet. And what I want to talk about today is, you know, what is the Internet of Things? I'll kind of keep it pretty high level. I heard a lot of really, really good discussion here with regards to people know a lot more about this than kind of I assumed kind of walking into this. It's kind of a hype cycle, some of the current trends of IoT today. Why should we care about this stuff? And this kind of some final thoughts here at the end. I've got about a dozen slides or so, trying to keep it within 5 to 7 minutes or so. So we can kind of go through this. If you look at the internet, one of the Internet of Things is based on Wikipedia. It talks about these network of these physical objects that are connected, and enables these objects to collect and exchange data. But what I really like is this idea of the Internet of Things is kind of becoming, the physical world is becoming this one big information system. So when kind of the internet stuff was taking off, people were thinking a lot about the screens and viewing stuff, but not thinking so much about the physical world. And now, with these devices, we're able to start collecting information about kind of what's going on around us. And it's kind of reached what people are calling this hype cycle, this hype cycle phase. This is a phase that pretty much most technologies end up going through this. This is put up by Gartner. They've created this in a number of different technology areas, but you have these people that are kind of early adopters. This is kind of the early adopter phase, where people aren't really sure what's going on with this technology, where it's going to be used. You start getting this peak of inflated expectations where mass media starts beginning to happen, right? So everyone's talking about this new technology. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's going to completely revolutionize everything. And so things are put up on this pedestal. And what happens is then you get into this trough of disillusionment, is what they call it, where it doesn't live up to the expectations that people were expecting. There are a lot of problems with the technology. And it needs to really be flushed out and figured out exactly where this fits. I kind of view this time and stuff as kind of a problem waiting for a solution. And so once you start figuring out where those solutions fit, then this peak, this stuff decides to kind of mature and start being kind of figured out and used in the right areas. Facebook, I would say, is out here, right? So, and it takes a long time. Facebook has been out for probably 10 years. I think 2004 is when it launched. So you got to realize things take a lot of time as they kind of move through this cycle. Gartner published a thing in July of 2015 with regards to technology. So they plotted certain pieces of technology. And as you can see, IoT is right there at the very tip. You've got, and I would say even now, it still is up there. People are reading, talking a lot about it. There's all this excitement, all this sort of things about, yeah, let's interconnect this, let's interconnect that. I'll talk a little bit about the end with my final thoughts as to, well, is that really the right thing to be doing or not? But this certainly is taking off in trends, and big data was the big term that I can kind of think about with regards to technology over the past 3 to 5 years. And everyone's talking about big data. And you can kind of see big data has really matured and peaked over these times in comparison to the Internet of Things. But we also have to realize, keep ourselves in mind in regards to a lot of times listening to an echo chamber, right? And so these things that are really hot and everyone's doing these days, just compare them. This is a thing actually that Google has called Google Trends. It's really fun. You can compare different types of things going on, what people are searching for, and kind of what's going on with regards to society in a lot of ways. And if you start comparing them, you realize, well, geez, we're actually still very early with regards to popularity around IoT. When I go and talk with people about what I do in my business and other types of stuff, people haven't heard of IoT. They've heard of Nest, they've heard of the Google driving car, they've heard of specific technologies, but they don't really grasp onto what IoT is. And IoT is still very much a conceptual thing. So the idea that everything is connected and what can we do when everything is connected, but things aren't actually connected these days, not everything is connected. So why should you kind of compare about, or why should you care about this stuff? I guess it depends on if you're interested in getting into a business or building stuff in this space, but you're seeing investments just increasingly rise. There's a lot of new companies that are coming out that are getting invested on both coasts. Some stuff's going on here in the Twin Cities, and as we kind of alluded to about IoT Fuse, I'm really trying to kind of bring awareness outside of the Twin Cities and state of Minnesota. There's some really great stuff going on. And the other thing that's kind of happening is you're seeing these costs go down. So the cost to put something, Internet Connect, that marker over there, is being driven down to zero. And it's making it a lot easier and a lot more economical for people to start thinking about, okay, well, what happened if I were to actually put a piece of technology inside of these physical objects? These discussions were happening for a long time. The Internet of Things is actually not really a new term. It was coined in 1999. And it's really taken time for costs to come down and for a lot of infrastructure to kind of be built into place. Big companies here, as I talked about, are actually investing big time in this. So Google purchased Nest for $3.2 billion. Have a whole sort of array here of a bunch of different companies that are spending a lot of money. They're very public about what they're doing, and that they kind of view this as sort of like the next revolution with regards to the internet. Talk real quick about some final thoughts. I'm just going to tell you a quick story. The driverless elevator was invented in 1900. That was way earlier than I thought once I started doing a little bit of research on this. The public actually hated it. People actually died in some of these early elevators. Everyone was supposed to know how to operate this elevator on their own. And it was a very new invention. And people didn't understand how to use this new piece of technology. I mean, it's kind of funny, but people were scared to use this. So they actually added elevator drivers. And you walk into the elevator, and the elevator driver knew how to run this elevator. Well, there was a strike in New York City in 1945. And actually, the city was losing millions of dollars every day. Because of the strike that was going on. And so what they did was they actually did a big public campaign. They actually put out advertisements. They showed little children walking on the elevator and operating it. They showed grandma going into the elevator and operating it. When you got in the elevator, they had music that would calm you. There was a voice that would come on that would tell you how you needed to operate the elevator and what needed to happen. So they basically kind of trained the public to understand how to use this new piece of technology. And it took a long time, but now, these days, anybody can walk in an elevator and they understand how it works. And IoT, I think, is very much in that early sort of phase right now. People have been thrown out a bunch of technology at themselves and said, we'll just figure it out. Well, people are scared. They're scared about security. They're scared about where's my data going. They're scared about privacy, all these types of things. And really, I think we can learn something from this with regards to training and understanding and just realizing that it will take time for a lot of this stuff just to kind of mature. It's funny to think about the elevator as a new technology, like a new advancement in technology, but in a lot of ways, I mean, it was at the time. I'm hoping IoT will be much faster, but it really has been 15 years, as I said, that people have been kind of talking about this stuff. It's really reached kind of sort of mass adoption or mass like I said, the hype cycle is there now today. A couple of things that I wanted to kind of touch on, which a lot of you are kind of thinking about already right now, is there's certain areas that the industry is lacking in. Number one is security. We all have seen a lot of stories about IoT, devices getting hacked and stuff like that. I talk about data silos a lot with companies and people, consumers. I have some of my data in Google, some of my data at Apple, some of my data in Amazon, right? And it's not really until you can start bringing all that data together is where you're actually going to see value in this thing. Internet connected coffee grinder, right? People look at that and they say, well, that's ridiculous. Or why would I want to have my toaster on the internet? That is ridiculous. I personally think those are a lot of ridiculous applications. But if you start actually bringing together pieces of various, the toaster, imagine if you had an entire smart kitchen that have all these things connected. And imagine if it was connected to your health records, for example. Your doctor could understand exactly what you were eating and how much milk you were drinking. Right? So there's applications that if you can start tying in all these other pieces of data, and it's not just the thing sitting there by itself, but all aspects of it is where things become interesting. And that's what needs to happen. Interoperability is a big thing. Everyone's got, you have an iPhone, I have an Android, right? If these things don't interoperate or talk to each other, it's useless. So there's a lot of standards that are being kind of built up these days, around trying to build this sort of layer so these objects can talk to each other. That's going to take time. The internet wasn't invented overnight. It took a lot of time for these things to kind of start kind of being able to work. Everybody kind of agreed that TCP/IP was kind of the way that these things were going to talk. Laptops. There's other sort of IoT network protocols that are being worked on. And then people have to start creating applications that make sense. I mean, I started a mobile company back when the iPhone first was launched, and people were making ridiculous applications. And that's what's kind of going on right now. And I think it's fine, actually. I think it's a lot of fun. People can do a lot of fun stuff. You can start kind of pushing the edges in terms of what's out there. But when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like, yeah, let's internet connect that and that without actually any sort of thought as to why you want to do that. So this is my last slide. I was around when the internet was kind of first getting going in the 90s, and I kind of view that as Web 1.0. So you're kind of connecting people to the internet. At that time, it was just, here's a brochure website, the stuff you could maybe find somewhere else, you're going to find it online. Web 2.0 was starting to connect people to people, so that's where I think Facebook, back in the days of MySpace, right? LinkedIn, all these social networks have been building and building and building over the past 10 years. And I view it as we're kind of in this Web 3.0 phase now. So you're talking about actually connecting physical objects to people, being able to interact with things and have objects be able to talk to each other and actually kind of talk back to you. So this is an exciting time. It's kind of the next phase, the next evolution of the internet, that I talk to people about. There's a lot of great potential, a lot of really fun things we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. It's the elevator story is kind of interesting. Those sort of things actually happen in modern times as well. When I was in India for my wedding in 2005, it was in New Delhi, and we walked into a mall, and it was very modern mall, like all the amenities, all the nice stuff, and they had escalators, but they were off. All the escalators were off. And I said to my wife, why, is there power failure? Why aren't the escalators on? It's like, no, people here are scared of them. And so they use them as stairs. So they turn them on. And she said, once a week, they turn them on, and they have people, they're instructing people how to use the escalators. And this was in 2005. About 2007, when I went back, they were always running. But I mean, that's how technology, people aren't used to it. They just can be scared of it and they can get hurt. So the next topic is more on IoT. And our next speaker is going to be Marie Fromm. She's a senior principal security engineer at Medtronic. She spends her days leading the Medtronic cryptography team. She loves puzzles, reverse engineering, and space cryptography. Please help me welcome Marie Fromm.
Thank you, everyone, fellow Toastmasters guests. Today I'm going to talk about an aspect of Internet of Things security, and I'm going to frame that in some security failures that we've had over time. And this will help to better understand why some of the things that we've used in the past really can't be used in the future. And this is not working, so that. So in the beginning, we had HTTP, and life was good. We brought up a website and said, as soon as we did that, we said, this isn't secure, this HTTP thing. Anybody can intercept it. So we have to add a security layer. We do online shopping. And as we started analyzing, we say, we need this layer for security to secure our stuff. And so we came up with SSL. And it was good. It was based on a key exchange, a public-private key exchange between a website and a user. They exchanged public keys, set up a secure channel, encrypted it with private keys. This is actually a Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So it gave us several things. It gave us confidentiality, it gave us integrity, non-repudiation, and unidirectional trust. And I bring that up because it's very important. If you're connected to an SSL connected site, you trust, say, the bank by virtue of the certificate of authority and who attests that that's actually real. The bank has no idea who you are. That's why you have to authenticate. And so these cases, it's a unidirectional trust. We had SSL v1, and as soon as it was released, it was broken. No plain text attacks. There was no sequence numbers that allow us to do replay attacks. They used checksums, so it was real easy to develop collision attacks. And so we came up with SSL v2.
and said, oh, now we've got it, it's all better. However, it was hacked. There's actually several problems with SSLv2. We were in the first iteration of the crypto wars, where the US government said, you know, we want to keep the really good crypto here in the US, and we want to give everybody else in the world this really kind of broken crypto that we can actually break. It didn't work out really well because like no software ever has crossed national boundaries over the internet. So I don't know why they thought that was going to work this time. But in a nutshell, we had web servers supporting this export-grade crypto. It allows an attacker to get in between and say, you know, hey, let's use the really breakable stuff. And they did, and it was broken. So we said, let's do SSLv3. We're marching on. And things were good. And so we solved the problems. However, it was broken. And this was kind of the introduction. In the security researcher community, there's a lot of really, all the SSL attacks had to have clever names behind them. You know, the beast attack, poodle attack, and each one related to a letter. And sometimes I wonder, did these researchers spend as much time kind of working out the word as they did actually, you know, dealing with this? And, you know, when SSLv3 was broken, it's like, okay, we got to rewrite this stuff. This transport cryptography thing is not working out. Let's even name it something completely different. TLS-v1, so people know that we're making a new start. And so it's like, we're all secure, right? Wrong. Actually, some of the same things, the same attacks we use against SSLv3, ultimately work against TLS-v1. There was RC4 attacks. Think of web, which actually was a lot of years earlier. And it finally came to things like TLS-v1. So, and then around that time, there's also a lot of really interesting attacks around aspects of this cryptography, these systems. OCSP, which is a way of checking to say, is this certificate that I've been presented, is it revoked or valid or, you know, real? And so there was attacks around that with the number 3, kind of interesting, compression attacks, renegotiation attacks, and there was web servers that used fixed injection vectors. There's really stupid things. So the only one, now it's TLS 1.1. Now we're secure, right? No, wrong. New attacks, yeah, the breach attack, the Rhyme attack, you know. So at about that time, we started talking about low power stuff like the Internet of Things and mobile phones. We said, you know, we can't do all this processing on these. We need some more efficient ways of doing cryptography. And the NSA came along and said, you know, we know more about crypto than anybody. And they worked with NIST. And they said, you know, we've got this thing, these elliptic curves, and we've got this one curve in specific, and we'll make it this NIST standard. There were some cryptographers that said, you know, there's something that looks kind of weird about this stuff, but you know, the NSA said, oh, just trust us, we really never lie. And actually became a NIST standard. And then, of course, you know what happened next was is with Snowden papers. It turned out that actually that algorithm was backdoored. They actually reportedly paid one cryptography company to make this broken crypto the default standard in RSA, an encryption module that's using a ton of embedded stuff in systems. So anyway, moving on, we have TLS 1.2, so we're secure now, right? We had some principles like we want perfect forward secrecy. So there were some new algorithms added. So if an attacker had a key and captured traffic, they couldn't use that key to reconstruct past traffic like they could in prior versions. So that was good, but it was broken too. Drown attack and sloth attack, one of my favorite ones. So you're saying, you know, this kind of sucks. You know, we're kind of bad at this. And there's lots of paths failure. We're barely getting to unidirectional trust. When we, you know, with the Internet of Things, we actually need bidirectional trust and we need peer-to-peer trust. And so, you know, what we've been doing really doesn't solve IoT use cases. So I talked briefly about Bitcoin, and this is a really idiotic picture because Bitcoin, as everyone knows, is not made of gold, it's actually made of math. And so it's really interesting math, and this actually isn't the math either, but it's a cool slide. So I'm going to talk about the math behind Bitcoin, and it's called blockchain. And that has some really cool things it solves. It solves the Byzantine generals problem, which is I've got these generals, and we have to make a decision, a collective decision to attack or retreat. Some want to attack, some want to retreat. It's important we all do the same thing at the same time, because if some do one thing and some do the other, we're doomed. And there's also some traitorous generals in there. And so this problem is, how do you get a consensus and make sure that traitors or hackers are not subverting your system. And so this Byzantine generals problem is is solved by blockchain, which is underlying Bitcoin. So let's talk a little bit more about what exactly a blockchain is. You can think of it as a ledger that's chronologically updated. It's cryptographically sealed. It's completely immutable, and everyone has a copy. It's distributed. It helps prevent failures. These provides trust, non-repudiation, encryption, message integrity. I put all sorts of information in these blockchains. It doesn't have to just be financial transactions. So there's some really interesting things as we get into the Internet of Things. I can say I can create a set of records of Internet of Things devices that are in my trust boundary. And I can say, these are my Internet of Things, and I make sure my neighbor's Internet of Things don't get mistakenly part of my Internet of Things. And the hacker 2 doors down cannot add his devices to my Internet of Things. This can create records on devices, and these trust boundaries is really interesting. There's also a couple models. I won't go into permission versus unpermissioned blockchains, but this whole idea of blockchain is an incredibly powerful concept and allows us to do some things with Internet of Things and build trust models between devices, peer-to-peer trust, decentralized. We don't need VeriSign to sign something anymore. That's a really powerful thing. Also, that's not something that can be subverted then. And so this next slide is this eye chart. I would liken this to, you've all seen that poster, the Milky Way, and it says, you are here, and it's this little point. This is all the different use cases for blockchain. And the Internet of Things is like this little speck right here. So there's a lot of use for this in a lot of different areas. And it's not just about digital money. It's about, it can be about patient records or devices or systems and trust. And so this is really a cool concept. So to solve these problems we have with Internet of Things security, we cannot continue to think in terms of these legacy solutions. We have to look at future things, and looking at blockchain gives us some really practical methods. And I'd expect the blockchain to really take off over the next couple of years.
Thank you for that, Maureen. Lots of stuff I've never heard of before. I got some research to do apparently. Very interesting stuff, though. Our next and final speaker today is our club sponsor and founding member, someone who's been part of it since the very beginning. And today, his speech topic is IoT, but it's Internet of Cloud. And he did send me an introduction over mail, which the other thing. So I'm going to say that he's almost the best looking person in the club. He's probably the most long-winded sometimes.
Long-winded?
Well, I mean, but relatively long.
Yeah, but people seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, he's very entertaining, and he likes to follow schedules very well. Has been for the test too. And today he's going to be showing us a whole bunch of these devices. And are these Internet of Things?
These are things of the Internet, yes.
All right. So please help me give a warm welcome to Mike Bankovich.
All I can say is, what fun is this? How can we dive into having some fun with Internet of Things? I just want you to know that I'm now scanning the room. And if I had this plugged in, then you would see all kinds of lights coming out and actually controlling the world and taking over a lot of those things. I was looking at this and I was thinking about what is it that we want to talk about today? Internet of what do you want to do? Things. But what do you want to do things with? It used to be everyone had the browser on their computer. It's like, how many laptops can we sell? Because everyone uses a laptop to go out and talk to all of this data stuff. But at the same time all that's going on, there's other things that are coming in, other pieces of information, other patterns that people are going out to try to do. Things like using data to identify patterns of how people are going to behave. Looking at traffic. Does anyone have like the traffic in your car? And you look at those red lines that go north-south in the Twin Cities, they painted them red this year because they thought that would be kind of cool, and now they're voting on trying to get the ones that go left and right also red. So we'll see what happens with that. But the thing is that all of that data has to come from somewhere. It has to be processed somehow. I spent some time recently out in San Diego talking about how you can use the cloud to go out and actually use it to exercise and test and provide some way to go out and apply that to this Internet of Things. In fact, that little gadget there, we spent time writing embedded logic code to actually do, I think where I can push a button, it will send a text message to me, which then shows up on my band, which I wrote an app to go out and be able to ping it. And so the cool part of that demo is I push the button, bing, show up here, then show a chart where show how many times I push the little button. It's kind of like Pavlov's dog. It's like, how can we train ourselves to go out and really connect with this? I thought today's meeting was really cool. I thought Internet of coffee, IOC. How do we make sure that we've got the coffee beans enough to be able to go out and grind them and make sure that we can bring it together? Internet of G, IOG, the gadgets. You know, that's a gadget. That's a pretty cool gadget. This is a gadget. It's not really wired to anything. It appears to be clear, but is it really? Internet of Toast, IoT. If I want to make sure everything is done exactly right, I want to take the IOB, Internet of Biology, Internet of Home, Internet of Media, all of these different IoT, Internet of Stuff. And how do we connect it together? Because all of this data is great. You know, I want to be able to lock my door with my phone. How does that get from my phone to the physical device? It's got to go through somewhere. And where it goes through is going to be that connector. It's that one thing that helps us all kind of come together. IOC, Internet of Cloud. Some sort of a cloud, some way to be able to pull that information back and forth. And when we think about how we're doing this, you've got all of these different gadgets are going on. You've got the person over here who's using it, who's happy, who's managing stuff. And he's got his data coming back. The data goes in. Some service receives it, processes it into some kind of a storage mechanism. Maybe it's SQL, maybe it's relational, maybe it's whatever, maybe it's blob, maybe it's NoSQL. You have other services that are sitting out here building stuff, websites that things come down and feed out to mobile phones. So you can see how all of this kind of comes together. You know, and then you've got the admin over here that's, you got the admin over here that is, you know, trying to watch all this. And, you know, unfortunately, when all this stuff starts going crazy, how do you make sure that you've got some kind of sanity that's going to be able to make it all work, right? So how do you bring that in, manage it, keep the Internet of technology going? How do you keep it secure? How do you lock it down? How do you prepare people to be able to adjust to this whole new way of thinking? There's a lot of patterns out there. There's a lot of things that are going on that really make it harder to go through and do this. We worked on worked on a project where we've got device data coming in from vehicles out in the field, and we track that. And so you come up with these architectures, these diagrams that kind of describe how does this stuff go together, right? You got data coming in, you got ingesting, you got sending out, you've got these services going on. And you know, it's like those services go out and build that over time have been the same pattern over and over and over again. You go out and build this. It's funny, when I started improving, I looked at my customer list. I've got 4 customers. We're all doing the same thing. And they built it custom, each one of them. And every one of them is hitting scale issues or supportability, or how do we engage this and take it, you know, to be able to add more devices. We want to sell twice as much. How do we handle it? Well, there's patterns that come along. And one of the nice things about cloud, the modern cloud, is that those patterns are getting easier to go out and work through. People like Microsoft have these beautiful slides, you know, where they've got, data ingestion, data coming in. And I got IoT legacy gateway going into web APIs, talking to event hubs that talk to stream analytics. And stream analytics does the little, you know, the stream analytics connected to the event hubs connected to treasure function, and it's all kind of connects together. But the cool part about it is that you can literally orchestrate this stuff, and you're no longer writing so much code to make that happen. You're literally backing up, and you're saying, how can I use these services, this componentry? And the beautiful thing about this is that now we're at a point where I can literally go out and design out an architecture, an orchestration, if you will, of how I can bring that data in, get it someplace, and make it all work. And you think, okay, well, this is quite a mind shift. How do I learn how to do that? I mean, there's so many concepts. At the Build conference this year, Microsoft introduced this thing that is called the IoT Hub, and they got, how I can ingest data. And in order to understand how to actually use this, they actually included a reference architecture. It's called My Driving. And the cool thing about My Driving is it is a complete infrastructure that I can go out and I can build out a place where I take a little pluggable device, plug it in my car. It'll ingest data coming in from the engine, like the engine load and all of that. It'll track GPS from the device. It'll tell me where I'm at, and it'll create a nice little map, and it goes through how all of this works. But the thing is, this map here has got, 15 little boxes. Each one of them are like, their little connection thing. There's a 144-page white paper that explains how they decided to go with this particular architecture as opposed to something else. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not just use this, don't worry about the rest of it. It actually gives you a grounding on what that service is. What is Stream Analytics? What is Event Hub? What is Azure Functions? What is the machine learning? What is each of these different stuff? And it goes through and explains not only what it is, they also say why they chose that instead of one of the other technologies that they could equally have well done. They built the Xamarin app. The Xamarin app is actually distributed through Hockey App, so you can get updates to it. And the cool thing is they say, well, we use the Xamarin with a native markup for performance because the map really required that kind of thing. And so instead of doing Xamarin Forms, they explain why they did this. And if you want that, there's another architecture you can go out and see it. But the thing is that to learn how to do this, how do I stay current? How do I keep up with it? Use the stuff that's out there. Take a look at this. If you haven't done it, go out to azure.com/mydriving, download it, and try it out. I encourage you to go out. They make it easy to get started. They make it easy to go out and have fun with this. They make it easy for us to stay up with the IoT. Mr. Tillman.
Thank you, Mike. You just officially made me envious of your service. So we had 3 great speeches today, and I want to thank you all. Justin, thanks for coming and joining us for the day. All the speeches were great. I learned quite a bit from all of them, so thank you all for that. Next, we're going to move to the evaluation portion of the meeting. William is going to run us through some of the reports and some of the evaluations and that sort of thing. So please. Oh, I was supposed to switch. Please help me welcome William Austin.
Thank you, Brett. My role today is general evaluator. We're doing things a little differently, but first I want to say this was refreshing to hear technical topics. I was thinking in my head the oatmeal comic where he says more. Everyone's seen that? M-O-A-R, more. I want more. That's what I was feeling today. It was really refreshing to hear these technical, in-depth, kind of geeky topics. So with that, I'll do what my real job is, and I'll go to our timer. Today our timer is Nick. Please give your report. I'm sorry?
Vote for speakers.
Well, we're not going to vote on speakers today, but we are going to do evaluators.
Call on evaluators. I thought we were skipping evaluations.
No, just the vote.
Okay, so my evaluators were, please raise your hand, thank you. Jesse, would you raise your hand first? Could you give your evaluation of Mike, I believe?
Yes, Mike, as always, it's great to hear you speaking. I always pick up every little thing that you do, and you always use your hands in this wave motion. It just flows really nice. You speak loud, you speak clear. The only one thing that I'll bring up that's semi-negative is your drawing. You got to work on your drawing mode. I'm just kidding.
I know Brett was best.
what else I have here. You have personal examples, which are always kind of good. Makes the story a little bit more personal when you talk about your traffic app or software solution that you're doing. You have practical advice. Use the stuff that's out there. Obviously, the topic is right on par with everything else that's going on. I really have nothing else to add other than that. Always a great job. Great job.
Move to my next evaluator, Leanne, who will be evaluating Marie.
So Marie, this is a great speech, and we've seen you do a lot of speeches throughout our experience the last couple of months, and every time you're up there, you definitely get better, so great job on that. I loved your introduction. You got up there, you said what you were going to talk about, and then you kind of jumped in, so it was a great introduction. I also loved your use of slides. It's very simplistic. I think the first one was HTTP or something, just very, very simplistic. So very clear, the use of slides. I liked the use of red color. I think things are your, some of your versions down the road of that. I thought you had good transition slides also. The one transition that was, I thought, a little bit tricky was the Bitcoin. But somebody kind of jumped in, but I was like, oh, now we're talking Bitcoin. So it threw me out just a little bit. You only had a couple of filler words that I noticed, so that was really great. You had great body language, great kind of walking back and forth, good use of hand gestures, seemed very passionate. You sort of did a marching thing that was kind of humorous too, so that was also very good. In terms of recommendations or areas to focus on, I would say slow down. Perhaps even, and I know it was a lot of content you were trying to fill in, but maybe you do some pauses in between so you can slow down overall. But overall, I think it was a really very great presentation, really nice use of slides, so good job.
Thank you, Leanne, for that evaluation. Who was my last evaluator? That's it? All right. The next thing I will move to then is the role of grammarian, which is Gwen. Gwen, please give your report and award the word picture.
Okay, great. I used a few ums and ahs this morning, and other than my ahs and ums, I did not hear very many. Adrienne, during her Toastmasters table topic speech, I picked up 2, and she thinks she did more. I heard 1 ah from you, and those were the only ones that I picked up. As far as word of the day, Vince, thank you. You used the word of the day, and so did Adrienne, thank you. And as for the picture, word picture of the day, I heard a few. The pile of bodies was caught my attention right away. I liked the Byzantine generals. And I'm giving the award to someone who actually took a risk and actually drew a picture on the technology. So Mike, I'm awarding you the picture, word picture of the day.
Thank you, Gwen. Next, we'll move to our tabletop master for their report. And please do your report.
Thank you for showing that. So we had a lot of great answers, and I threw a lot of goofy ones out there, but it was kind of tough. But what I wanted to do is give it to someone who, as the tabletop master, you can kind of pick your own reason for why you want to give it to someone. Maybe this is something funny, maybe this is something insightful, maybe it's because they were way off topic, it was still interesting. But in my case, I want to give it to someone who actually stayed on topic. That was, some people didn't quite do that, but so this person stayed on topic, and not only did they do that, I would say they kind of a textbook example of how you answer. They stayed on topic the whole time, they answered the question very well to the best of their abilities, and they gave an opening, body, and conclusion. And for that, I like, especially because it's easy to remember, I want to keep working here.
Thank you, Vince. Lastly, I would give my general evaluation of the meeting, kind of already done. it seemed like all of the presentations were very well prepared. They were very well organized. I enjoyed them. So thank you very much to all the presenters. That's all I have. I'll turn it back to our field master. What have I report? Timer report. Nick, please give the time.
Second, all right, I will do this with pleasure. So today's time distribution was kind of interesting. We went super fast through table topics. And then we went super fast through evaluation, but that did give us more time for the speeches, which was good. So as far as the table topics, Leanne, you were 50 seconds. Katie, you were 1 minute. Eric, 1 minute 15 seconds. Edwin, 111. Jesse, 44 seconds. Myself, right around a minute. We want to be at least over a minute. So if you were under a minute, you might want to extend. I don't know, maybe people were sleepy or something like that. As far as the speeches, Justin was not supposed to time it, still did it, so you just under 11 minutes. No, we don't care. Marie, you were shooting for 6 to 8. You actually went overboard with almost 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 57 seconds. Mike, you told me 5 to 7. You were almost at 9 minutes as well, 8 minutes, 44 seconds. Evaluations, Jesse, super fast, super brief evaluation, 53. You want to go like for 2 to 3 minutes. So maybe that'll be a little bit. And Leanne, it's 1 minute 37. So you might want to increase that to another minute. No other comments.
Thank you, Nick, for the timers report. I'm sorry to have skipped you. I seem to have got the order all wrong. So I'm sure we're short on time. Turn it back over to our Toastmaster, Brett. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. In the interest of time, I'm going to bring the meeting to a semi-close, and thank you all for joining us and all the awesome speeches and playing along as our meetings got a little bit different. One final thing I want to do is just hand out the Spark Award. This is the award that for someone that brings some energy to the meeting. And today I want to give this to Justin for coming to our club and new face, new content. It's great having you. So this is for you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our club president to close out the meeting.
All right, do we have any new business before we get going? Announcements?
I was just going to announce real quick that there is an IoT meetup that happens. So the third Thursday of every month. And if you go to meetup.com/IoTFuse, you can find it. So our next meeting is this Thursday.
I'll start including that in our.
Yeah, it's 6:30 to 8:30.
Where are you doing it?
It's all over the place. This next one's going to be nothing.
Right. All right, let's see, next week's meeting, I'm trying to remember, what is the future? Okay, so next week, we're, so the future of, next week is, so next week we'll be discussing the future of technology and things like that. And I'm trying to remember what we're doing, Mike, Mike Hodnick, if you don't know what that is, will be our guest next week. And so we're gonna, again, Brett's gonna get out an email soon this week about our roles to make sure that we get an introduction in as quickly as possible. And we have a closing thought from our invitation. But forgot the man, skipped over. I can't decide.
All right. Also, the title today will be more philosophical. Believe those who are seeking the truth, and doubt those who find it.
That's how winding that is.